It isn't something that we can just directly point to and say, oh, there's Tao. That's what Tao is, and this is how you describe it, and it's very easy, and you just do this. It isn't like that. Hi, I'm Grant Kleiman from Darsana Martial Arts. Welcome to the channel. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe and share your comments below. And if you'd like to support us, you can check out links in the description. If you're not familiar with it, the Tao Te Ching is one of the seminal texts on Taoist philosophy, or Taoism, which is the philosophy that underpins our Tai Chi practice. So everything that we do in our Tai Chi practice is based upon the principles of Taoism. The primary or fundamental concept of Tai Chi, and one of the fundamental concepts of Taoism, is this notion of a seemingly dualistic world which is actually not dualistic, which is actually unified. And so we can see how things complement each other and balance and harmonize with each other. And this is the concept of yin and yang. The logo of our school is meant to be an eye seeing through the lens of that principle. You just can't see the other half. It's only implied in the mystery and the darkness, right? We'll go ahead with Stephen Mitchell, but I'm going to include something that he actually doesn't include in his translation. There is another chapter much later on, chapter 56, which has a verse that may or may not belong in chapter 4. There's discrepancy among scholars, which I am not one of them, but I do think that putting it in there can add a richness and an understanding to the concepts in chapter 4. So whether or not they actually belong in chapter 4, we'll discuss them today. So here's the reading, Stephen Mitchell, Tao Te Ching, chapter 4. The Tao is like a well, used but never used up. It is like the eternal void, filled with infinite possibilities. It is hidden, but always present. I don't know who gave birth to it. It is older than God. And I'll go ahead and read chapter 56. Those who know don't talk. Those who talk don't know. Close your mouth, block off your senses, blunt your sharpness, untie your knots, soften your glare, settle your dust. This is the primal identity. Be like the Tao. It can't be approached or withdrawn from, benefited or harmed, honored or brought into disgrace. It gives itself up continually. That is why it endures. The Tao is like a well, used but never used up. Some other translations would say the Tao is empty, and therefore it can never be depleted. So saying that it is empty is really to say that it is formless, right? It doesn't have a definite shape. You remember in the chapter 1 it says, the Tao that can be told is not the true Tao, right? The name that can be named is not the eternal name. So the idea here is that Tao is not a thing. If we give it a description and we try to give it a shape and defining limits, we limit it, and then it isn't Tao, right? Tao is that which has, if you will, no thingness, right? In the sense that it isn't like every other manifest aspect of reality. It, you could say, is that which is the source of it. And that's kind of the meaning of the next line, which is, it is like the eternal void filled with infinite possibilities. Most translations say something a little bit more like, it is so deep, it seems to be the ancestor of all things. Basically what it's describing is Tao as the fundamental nature of everything, right? To say it's the ancestor of all things, or later on, as it says, older than God, is to say that it is the mystery from which everything emerges. Again, you remember in chapter 1, it said the mystery is called darkness, darkness within darkness, the source of all things, something like that, right? So this is important because, like I said about the logo, the way it's the dark part is only implied. It's important for us to understand that there is a horizon beyond which is the unknown. And that is not a bad thing, but rather something that is absolutely necessary for us. Open to that which we don't know. And that's something we have to do, because without doing that, then we end up feeling like we need to know everything and control everything. And so you can let go of this need for control and understand that part of what moves you forward is that you have this space to explore, to have new inspiration, and a reason really to move forward. Once everything is known and mastered, game over in a way, right? There's no more life. The part that is usually included from chapter 56 in many translations, but not all, is the part that says, close your mouth, block off your senses, blunt your sharpness, untie your knots, soften your glare, settle your dust. This is the primal identity. This is admonishing us not to lean so heavily upon intellectualization, upon using the part of our mind that identifies, defines, and categorizes things, and then getting into all of these sort of clever systems. The part that says merge with dust sometimes also says integrate with the world. And I think this is an admonishment to live more simply. It's an admonishment to let go of fancy trappings and complex ideas. The untangling of complexities, right, is to realize that in a direct relationship with our own nature, and with capital N nature, right? Not just nature as in skies and tree and animals, but nature as in the way of things. By doing that, we realize that there is a more intuitive, simple, and direct way to live. And it doesn't mean that we have to, buy a cottage out in the country and, go live a rural lifestyle. It just means that we need to engage with direct experience more and less with thinking about things too much. One of the reasons that we do Tai Chi is so that through the body we can engage with our own nature. The body becomes the corridor, the entryway into some of these deeper, more direct experiences. It is hidden but always present. Again, because it doesn't have form, because it is not a thing, it isn't something that we can just directly point to and say, oh, there's Tao. That's what Tao is, and this is how you describe it, and it's very easy, and you just do this. It isn't like that. Because it isn't like that, each of us has to engage and develop our own relationship with it. It's always there in the sense that its function and its effect is in everything that is and everything that happens and everything that we do. And so if we can learn to pay attention to that which is not obvious and seen and defined and categorized, in other words, engage with the emptiness, engage with the unknown, with the mystery, and try to have this direct perception. In other words, turn inward, feel your direct experience, or turn outward and really look, really see. Don't categorize and define and name things. Just say, this is this and that is that. I already know, I'm moving on. Truly listen, what in Tai Chi we call Ting, right? This depth of attention, like you're seeing it for the first time. I don't know who gave birth to it. It is older than God. Sometimes it says it is older than the 5 ancestors, or it is older than the first emperors. It just means it's older than the beginning of everything that we know, the beginning of understanding, the beginning of history, maybe even the beginning of the cosmos, right? It is the source of all manifest reality. So saying that it is hidden or unseen, but always there, is saying that you have to look beyond the obvious. You have to look beyond the shape of things and beyond the models that you bring to interpret the world, and try to see or feel or experience that which is beneath it all. Right? That's really the purpose of any kind of meditative practice, any kind of meditative discipline. We are seeking to move beyond the complexes of concepts that we form and use to identify and interpret things, and have this kind of direct perception that is beyond words. And we all have that. We all have that, but we just don't use it very often. Most of the time we're sort of very engaged in this, what might be called a left-brained sort of way of thinking, very much about categorizing everything. And so these first 4 chapters in different ways are kind of all giving the same message, which is to say, in the words of Bruce Lee from Enter the Dragon, don't think, feel. Right? Or in Star Wars, trust your feelings. This kind of idea, it really just means that there is a deeper intuition that we all have, that we can all access. And one of the ways we learn to do that is with engaging with our physical experience. So I know when we do class, a lot of the times I'm giving you all of these instructions, and so that's going to have you very much in your head trying to understand what I mean and how you can follow along and do it correctly. That's the lesson. The practice is now go try to feel that and do that. Right? This is one of the reasons that you should try to practice on your own as much as you can, because that's your time with you, with your direct perception. That's chapter 4. It's actually a brief chapter, but it further drives home this point that we cannot access this kind of deeper truth with conceptualizing it, defining it, and explaining it, despite the fact that we're doing all of these philosophical talks and somebody tried to write it down in a book, right? It's a book about how you can't get that from a book. But, again, like the Zen saying, the finger pointing to the moon, right? If you look at the finger, you're going to miss the moon. It's that. So this is all to say, stand and breathe and turn inward and feel your experience, and don't try to name it. Don't try to judge it. Don't try to make anything out of it. Just spend some time experiencing that directly. And the more you can release and relax, that release is giving into emptiness. It's giving into the unknown, right? When we hold on to ourselves with tension, that's trying to hold on to what we think it's supposed to be like, right? And whatever model, conscious or unconscious, that we've taken on to define ourselves even in a physical way. Most of the time it's unconscious. And Tai Chi tells us to examine that, to feel the body and let go. And letting go is hard, in part because we're afraid that we don't know what's going to happen when we do. If we let go, I don't know, I might hurt myself, I might fall down, something weird might happen. And I know I've had this experience, and many of my students have had these experiences where when something finally released and then shifted in their body, they panic and tightened up because something just happened that they weren't familiar with. This is what we really mean by relaxing. It's not the relaxing of, nice drink, feet up, end of the day, going limp. That's nice, but it's not what we mean. What we mean is release. And to release the body, you have to release in the mind. This is really about the mind.